Okay, in today's video I'm going to talk about picking a business niche. When you're trying to make money via PPC ads, and perhaps in this video the typical person is going to start out by picking a business niche, and then they're going to pick how they're going to promote and sell what they're selling in whatever industry that they're or niche that they're entering. I'm going to kind of put into perspective, of course, how to be able to do that outside or irrespective of PPC in general as a topic. But because I'm a PPC expert, I'm going to put this whole picking a niche for business to enter, do niche marketing inside the lens of PPC specifically. Different stuff that I've started, stuff that's worked, stuff that's not. And, you know, for all practical purposes anymore, and just as a side note, at our PPC management marketing firm, we have a lot of people who want us to be able to do it, do it all firm, because people that say they do all the marketing for you charge a little less than what you would hiring maybe more than one marketing specialist. And I always tell them anyway, why is it that you want a do-it-all firm? You only have so much money to spend. Why spread it out over everything so that everything is just done mediocre? Which, if you've got competition in your space, none of it works now. Versus picking one channel, doing it right, and then adding new channels later, which is the by far proper preferred way to do it. And with PPC being the main thing online that works, starting out from zero, with some exceptions, then picking your niche can be tied in with what is, in terms of PPC, what can I promote that'll actually make money? And that's what I'm going to cover in today's video. I always, if you can always start with very little PPC money too, by the way. So I'm going to go through ways how you could start with as little as $500 to $1,000 in PPC spend a month, and actually build that up to $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month in spend, and make the $5-10 million a year in sales from your micro niche or niche business that you're trying to promote through PPC with this video. And then what are the shortcuts around actually delivering that product or service? So obviously half of this is, how am I going to sell it? Is it going to be profitable to sell using marketing, or just PPC in specific is what I'm going to be able to tell you the most about in this video. And then also, how am I going to get my hands on this product or service that I'm going to deliver? And so there are a few different configurations of how to be able to deliver on and be able to actually offer what you're offering in that niche. And so my process that I'm going to give to you here starts with figuring out what's not got a lot of competition and has enough potential that if you enter it, you can enter it and be profitable within the first few $1,000s that you spend on PPC ads. And what can I do that I'm not going to have to spend, $50,000 worth of investment to actually start my company or more? Sometimes it's $250,000 that people spend starting up a company. There's some hacks there I'm going to give you, and be able to hack kind of both sides of the equation there, on the delivery side, on the marketing side. So you could start out with virtually, basically, and a lot of times with little to no money. Might need $5,000 to $10,000 to start a whole business that can generate millions in sales down the road, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, of being very disciplined and reinvesting all the dollars you have back into it and just building it up that kind of way. So what I'm going to do on my videos as usual here is I'm going to go through the typical things, the stuff that you need to know, picking a niche, the pros, the cons about doing it one way versus another, earning potentials at the end of the video, that kind of thing. And just the stuff that you need to know to be able to actually, if you want to get into a new business and you want to see what could be done making money through PPC ads by starting a new little business, I'm going to go through all the stuff that you need to know here on this video. So anyway, as usual in my videos here, I start out with a fairly general background. If I was just starting out again in doing business and making money one way or another through PPC ads, which I've done e-commerce, PPC businesses, I've done selling services through PPC, Obviously we run a PPC agency here, which is another way I've made money through PPC over the last 15 years. This is what I would do to start again if I were perhaps in your shoes to get started, in terms of, picking that, not just randomly picking a niche, because that's, idiotic, but do the research to pick the right one so that, basically when we get into it, it's profitable right away. That's always the goal, right? And so there's a methodology to that. Here's what I would start again with, and this is actually, and I'll also tell you about what I used before when I was in e-commerce, when I was selling services, how I came about doing that and picking the niches that I picked at that time doing business, and starting out learning how to make money with PPC ads 15 years ago. So actually, when I started doing PPC 15 years ago, it was when I was done with college, and around 2005, actually probably 2004 to be exact. PPC is fairly new, and basically I met somebody in college who was an engineer, electronics engineer, understood design engineering a little bit, and so this person was an entrepreneur before school, and he showed me the ropes on how to pick a niche, if you will. And so what we would do, and still is hot to this day, are anything in the auto performance part space, anything that will get more horsepower and done in an either easy or economical way. So what we would do back in the day then, eBay was still really big. Actually, it still is, but we would just go around on eBay and you would just search for different things that people were selling, and stuff that was built by, back in the day on eBay, there'd be all kinds of stuff that people would, at that time still, that people would just build and sell. And we would find people doing that. We'd buy the product, we'd look at it, this guy could actually de-engineer it, make our own version of it, and then just sell. And then with eBay it was easy because you could just check the feedback of the person selling it, and you could see exactly how many products that person is selling. So you don't get quite that lucky anymore. A lot of people are making their listings private, but that should be ultimately your goal. Let's find somebody who's selling something and that's making money, and let's just copy them. Because if you're going to start out with something new, and I've seen all kinds of people get really rich having a new idea. And a good idea when you see one, so it's not really of question. So you could definitely do that. But if you can't, sometimes that takes experience, and you have to stumble upon usually something to come up with that really good idea. This video is going to be about how to do more so what I was explaining before, where you're just going to copy ideas. You're not going to literally copy, but you get my point. And so what these products were like the computer systems in a car, which is called today still electronic control unit. You could be able to modify through adding what is called like a computer chip or EPROM chip to that computer system. And this person knew how to take the code that is basically open source that people came up with to modify and program a chip so that when you put it in your computer system, it would change the performance of the vehicle, engine map. And so we would sell those. Then there was other products, specifically other products that could advance the timing, so on and so forth, through the remapping the ECU that he would be able to make, because he understood also how to package up electronic products like that. But it all sourced from just seeing on eBay what was working. And so today, just knowing what I know today, I would not just stick with eBay. I would actually go on and look at the PPC ads that are running. And our goal is to find, if you will, a diamond in the rough. It's not going to stick out, and it's not going to be obvious. You're going to do hours, if not days, of research to find something that's likely making the person who's selling it a lot of money, and then we're going to figure out how to offer it too. So anyway, I'm going to go into all the details on that, but that's specifically what we did here. And we also just made the product ourselves. We weren't people were starting to really kind of get a lot of stuff made in China at that time, but we never did that. And we were, 20, 21 years old, so we weren't quite experienced enough to do all that stuff quite yet. But we made a ton of money at it till like 2009, 2010. I sold my share of the company to that that business partner, which was the engineering guy, to that person because I had difficulty just interacting with that person. I was just leave it at that. And then I started in. I was a VP at a marketing firm for a while, and then I started my guaranteed PPC management firm 7 years ago, Guarantee People Services, and then with the idea that and using some of the methodology I'm sharing with you here to understand how to actually offer something that's going to be profitable right away, because I found a hole in the market and a niche that is ready to be filled, which should be your goal ultimately if you're going to take this all the way and make the most money from it. So anyway, what I've developed here is a flow chart kind of decision making when you're going to pick a niche. If you're just starting out, you don't have any idea at all what to choose. So the first thing you always got to figure out is if I'm going to do a service or a product. And that's an initial large question in itself. What's better, services or products? So they each have their own problems. I've done both. I can tell you firsthand. There's no panacea. If you're doing services, just because you go to products, it's not going to be your worldly problems are fixed. And if you same thing with the other side, there's just different problems that turn up from each one. Namely, obviously, if you're offering a service, you can't control people in a way that can be mechanized, and people are unpredictable. And so, it's a clever art in getting company culture to get people engaged, and they'll stay with you, or just so on and so forth. That it gets into some woo-woo stuff sometimes to be able to make that work. Versus the product, obviously, you don't have those problems. But then with the product, there's problems with a big one, actually, if you weren't aware of it yet. And a lot of people have this. It's a manufacturer, well, especially, not racist here, but especially with China, if you're ordering products from China, if you think you're just going to take the products out of the box and sell them and not test them, you have another thing coming for you, because they're going to keep you on your toes. They're going to make sure that they're going to at some point try to reduce the quality of the materials and or some aspect of the product, and then you're going to be shipping it off to the customers, and then they're going to suddenly, now you've sent out 100 pieces of this product out to your customers, and then you start getting calls from the first few saying, hey, this product does not work, and then you got to do a recall on 100 products, and then all your profit margin's gone, and you have a whole headache. And so you got to have a whole quality QA process set up in selling products, where the products come in, of course, and you got to test them and the more that complex the product, the more you have to test it. If you're selling a paint product, you actually have to go out and paint something, and you got to analyze the density of the materials and so on and so forth. So that is in and itself a whole is a problem. So I want to say products, I would, if I had to pick one, I would prefer to have that problem over than the problem of managing people and keeping them happy, if you will. Money, by the way, doesn't fix everything. If you think, and this is not just me being cheap, money doesn't motivate all the way like you think it would. Like if you pay enough, that person's happy no matter what. It's a good third or half of it, but there's other stuff to it you still got to deal with. But you pick one, and so you can decide for you which one you want to deal with, potentially product-wise, and then of course the manufacturer can have problems, and then you have to go to another manufacturer. And sourcing problems when you've scaled up your business, and now you all of a sudden can't get product from the person, even if you're buying in bulk, then you got to shut off your ads. And if you keep your ads off for like more than 2 weeks, Google doesn't take you seriously anymore. So when you turn them back on, the ads are not going to work quite as good as they were. Whereas if you got a service, you obviously it's going to be easier. You've got some redundancies in there, and it's less likely to happen, obviously, as well. Just another thing to throw in there. But regardless of product or service, you're going to be tasked with the same thing, though, to be able to know that it's going to work and make you money. You can't just pick anything. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there if you get into it. The Me Too, it's so saturated, just not going to make any money. So my goal is to get you into a niche that can make you money right away. So again, whatever you pick, product or service, competition plays a factor in the most of the equation, let's just say, of whether you're going to make money or not. So, and also, depending if you have a lot of experience already today in PPC, doing PPC ads or not, the weaker your PPC skills, generally, the smaller the niche market size you're going to have to start with here. So people that have more money and more resources and more experience, they're traditionally going to go after the stuff that they can do higher volume because there's higher demand for it, higher search volume online, and they're just going to go for the more mainstream stuff because they understand how to beat competition through other traditional ways by setting up the ads, by understanding how operations work, that you're not going to be able to compete with them usually right off the bat if you're new, especially if you're new at the PPC, by the way, right off the bat. So what normally you want to do if you're starting out with just learning PPC is start with a smaller niche that the bigger guys are just going to basically be like, I moved on past that, I need a bigger opportunity. So I created a little chart here. So there's in terms of difficulty, in order to make PPC work and picking a niche, difficulty hard being up top here, the established businesses that have been there and have been there for years. A company that sells warehouse lighting. That company, that product's been there for decades. It's going to be there for decades. It's a stable market, stable business, if you will, and has a lot of volume because every single business that has a warehouse, for instance, needs the product. So that's where the big people that have lots of money, have lots of experience are going to go. And once you get it to work, the potential is that you can make $20 million, $30 million a year selling that product versus something else, like it might be custom designed nail design kits where you might be able to make a couple million, $2-3 million a year, depending on, and filling in a small micro niche, but it's easier to do. There's less competition, but also there's some other ways. So again, if you're starting out and you're unsure of yourself and you want to get some experience with PPC, do something that has less potential, nail it, and then work your way up this chain. But starting out, there's more opportunity in terms of needing less skills to get it to work if you fall into one of these categories. So the first is just the sketchy. I'll just leave it at that. So if you're selling something that's legally in a gray area in terms of what you're doing could technically be construed as legally gray, or you're selling something that's completely legal but the consumer is in a gray area to what they're selling, that is something that a lot of people who have money and have skills and would normally do it would do but won't because they're not going to get into that sketchy stuff once they've got something to lose, which just put it that way. In the auto parts space, it was test pipes. So still to this day, you could take out the catalytic converter, which reduces pollution in the exhaust system, and you could put a pipe that lets the exhaust go straight through and increases the horsepower of the car. Those would sell like hotcakes, but the consumer is not legally supposed to be able to do that. And so we dabbled with that just a short time, but way back 2005. But and for all practical purposes, it's not illegal to sell the product, but just they are not supposed to install it. So we got fairly quickly. I didn't really. I won't get into too much of the details on that, but stuff like that, depending on how much cojones you have, there can be a way to make a lot of money real quick if you're willing to kind of fill a need that's in an area that other people just aren't willing to do. Of course, so there's a saying in business, you can always do you could be the first, or the best. So a lot of times if you want to be the first one, it won't work because the idea is just not proven. You're taking a gamble there. But then there might be a period of 1, 2, 3 years that there's no competition at all and you make so much money that it's worth it. Obviously versus like I said, I prefer for me to do, and what I would say most of you guys to do, is just find somebody who is established. It's a little bit easier, not quite the potential, but more of a given, and then you can just do more of those businesses or just scale up that business and make just as much money anyway. But if you could find a niche that's new, then that might be a big money niche, if you will. It has a lot of volume in it, but because it's new, you found it first through this research kind of method I'm going to give you here, then you can jump into that with less skill, make money, and then by the time the other players catch up and find out what you're doing, you already have enough knowledge and resources to keep that going. The other thing, of course, is just if the niche is small, like I talked about. If you max this thing out to make $2-3 million a year, the bigger guys aren't going to really probably be worried about that. There's probably nobody really doing it right, let's say. Nobody who has a really slick looking website and a slick looking product with slick looking packaging, and that if you just jumped in there and did it right, you would be the default obvious person to go to, and that's kind of more so starting out where you want to be. And obviously, in e-commerce, you're doing $2-3 million a year in sales. Your profit margin might only be 6-7%. You might make $200K a year. It's nothing to sneeze at for the new guy, but for the other people that are already making that, they don't care about that anymore. So that'll leave you the opportunity. But anyway, how do you find these niches? Ultimately, at the end of the day, that might be at the lower end of the scale. So if you find something that only 1 or 2 people are advertising, that is where your money is. If you're not a veteran PPC person starting out. Otherwise, just go for the stuff that has high volume, and then at the same token of same kind of case what I explained before. It doesn't seem like there's nobody doing completely quite right in terms of the quality of the website. Just make a better website, add a little bit more sophistication to your PPC, or should I say detail, and then you can beat them. But I'm going to assume for this video that you don't have 10 years of experience running PPC ads and don't have millions on deck to be able to compete with the top guys right now. So what I would do, I told you the story about eBay, how I found niches that way before, and I would just go and I would basically kind of do the same thing as here. So they got a software called SpyFu now where you can spy on other people's PPC campaigns. On eBay, I would just type in, once I found one product that would sell, I would check that person's feedback, and then I'd find other products that person would sell. And that would clue me into other markets. And when I found those once I found those products, I'd find the other people selling those same products, and then I would check their feedback and then find the other products that person sells. So all the people that basically are micro niche marketers, I would find all the products that they have, and then I would try to decide if I can replicate what they're selling, buy the product, look at it, take it apart, see if it can be rebuilt, look at the instructions, retype all those instructions. I would use SpyFu today. So on SpyFu, you could type in, and it doesn't matter what it is, warehouse lighting, and it'll tell you all the competition that's advertising for the keyword warehouse lighting that sells warehouse lighting. Excuse me. Then there'll be a list of competitors there, and so you can click on any competitor, and then it'll tell you all the competitors of that competitor. And then you can look through all those competitors, and you can say, what the heck is LED warehouse lighting? And then that's a thing. And then you can click on that one, and then it'll show all the competitors to that guy. Oh, I found a new niche. Obviously, LED warehouse lighting is a niche. And you just go on and on and on like that. That's how you're going to be able. That's a tool that you're going to be able to find these quote unquote micro niches where you want to be at. The ones that can make you maybe $2, $3, $4, maybe even $5 million a year that the other guys are overlooking that are new or kind of legal gray area, which are even higher profit potential. Or again, they're good money, but they're not fantastic money to get into once you do it right. And then you could just own that market instead of just making a ton of money, being the top 3. If you're the top 1, you'll own it and make a decent amount of money, but you want to be number 1 in that case. So SpyFu is a software that you would do that, though, to find the niche idea. Now, with all that said, so here's some different hacks to be able to when it comes to actually delivering the product or service at the end of the day. Here are your kind of different routes and the pros and cons of each. I'm going to go through that now as the next thing, part of the video. For a service today, obviously the traditional way to offer the service would be to hire people and then set up an office or whatever, a remote team, and offer that service. Obviously you can do that. Some people, by the way, try to have a software that automates a lot of the process anymore. I've seen a lot of people do that. Enter a market that's traditionally done, the work's done manually, try to create a software that automates part of the process and get their edge that way. But one way that you could start out with less money, since that's kind of what I'm trying to cater to, is people that are starting out and want to make money quicker with less money overall starting out, is you can poach people from other firms. So let's say you wanted to start a business that does commercial inspections, pre-sale inspections. It's like a micro niche. That's like kind of a definition of a obvious what I would call micro niche business. You could make a software out of that automates that industry somehow, some way. That'd be one way to approach it. But the other way, you could poach people. You go on LinkedIn and you find other commercial inspectors that are doing and that have maybe a small consultancy. It's just them, or whatever, or also another firm that also is in that space, who probably doesn't make a whole lot of money because that owner doesn't know how to market their company correctly, and then just message the person that works that does the inspections and say, hey, I'd like to offer you a position, ask what they're offering, and then offer to pay them 20% more, and then you got that person, and it's a turnkey business, because then automatically you run the ads, and then you just send the work through that person, and because you can do remote stuff online now, you can just direct all the calls to them, and you got a turnkey business, if you will. Some other cases, you can actually get that person to do work on the side, and they'll be more comfortable switching over to you if you're unproven, unnew, no big reputation to show, and just say, I will send all the calls to you between 5 and 8, because you can actually run your ads 5 to 8 at night if you wanted to. And once you understand the numbers, then you might be confident to hire them full time, or that person, or should I say the person doing it can see the potential that this is obviously going to work, and I like the job, and now when you go to them and say that you'll pay them the $80,000 a year that they ultimately want to jump ship, both sides understand what's going on. So that's a little hack that I've found that you can do to jump into a service business, to not actually have quite the capital of hiring people from scratch, having to know how to train these people, so on and so forth. On the product side, manufacturing sub-branding. So I talked about how when I started out, we would just actually literally make the product. We would buy the competitor's product and then de-engineer it in some way and then replicate it in our own place, our own house, if literally speaking. So if you go through anymore, most people are going to get products through China. Obviously, there's some good USA manufacturers you could definitely go through, but China a lot of times caters to what their users, so that they will take any product you find like on Alibaba and they'll put your logo on it. They'll also change it, the casing or packaging of the product. This was just a casing of the product slightly. Not too radically, because if you have to change it drastically, you have a whole new, that'll cost $100,000 to redo the molds. But at the very least, a lot of times they'll put a logo on there, and they could change a few discrete details about it to make it your own product. And so if you're going to sell products, I would definitely recommend going the route of making your own branded product. That way, if somebody you pay to send to your site through PPC is interested and they need to come back, then they're going to be able to find you and only want to buy it from you. Versus if you're selling something that there's no actual brand name to it and it looks generic and indecipherable from everything else, then obviously if they don't want to buy today, later on, what's the chances they're going to come back to you and buy from you? So you should have your own branded product. I've seen people sell a paint product that they went to the paint manufacturer and they did a deal with the paint manufacturer to buy from them, and then they just made their own label on a paint can, and now they have their own branded product. And they built that business up, and it does, several $1 million a year consistently. And it's a paint product that's made for a specific application that nobody was doing it to where they had a dedicated site for it, and had, the other part of making money with e-commerce is having a phone number, so when somebody calls, they can talk to somebody who can give them guidance on the product if you're selling something that costs more than $100. And so if you can make your own branded product and a decent looking website, you're already way ahead of probably most people in that space if there's only a few $1 million a year in sales revenue potential in it. And then if you offer the good phone sales / support, I mean, you're going to make it work no matter what at that point in time. So, but it starts with working with the manufacturer to, basically make, at the very least, the packaging look customized and your logo and your label and all that, so it looks like your own product. And that way you don't have to, that saves you money in designing a whole new product. There's no reason to design a whole product. You take the product they have and you ask them what's the options, or think of the options to customize the packaging so it looks unique, so you don't actually have to develop something unique. Or you can take the competitor's product like we did, buy it, send it to the Chinese company that sells similar products to that already, and say, what is it going to take to have you guys make a product like this? I want the exact same product, and they'll give you a quote. And then again, so that'll be a little bit more than taking. So that's going to take maybe a couple 20 grand more than taking their product with a unique label on it to make it look your own and selling it. But that would actually, they would actually be able to make something that looks totally unique. So it's clearly decipherable, not just from the logo and a little bit of the packaging, but the whole thing looks different. And so then you can create your own unique brand that way. So that's kind of a different route you could go with it. So, but all that said, so we didn't really get into what the consumer wants and how the market is really driven. I have this more money method. So on top of everything I told you here already, what I'm going to recommend to you to be able to really knock things out of the park is to do the following. Now, I told you the story how I started, well, briefly about guaranteed PPC. The reason why I started guaranteed PPC was because I understood people that hire PPC agencies, they weren't getting good results. And I knew if I offered some sort of guarantee or contingency offer for our clients, then clients would just come to me. Because most companies don't give you any results when you hire them. They're rip-offs, in other words. So I just labeled the company guaranteed PPC, honing in on that one thing that was not right about, there's a problem in that business, and then I made a business that was that was originally extremely saturated to not saturated. And so along those same lines, you can take the product or service and do that for yourself, and then put yourself into your own category if you didn't find a category that has the one or two competitors in it, and then just do it better than them. You can, of course, find something that has, a lot of competitors, and then just find what the problem is in that market, focus on that, and then you've got it down to you're the only one now that can sell and do what you do. You brand that, and then that's another way to get into what you're doing without having to spend too much money up front. So in that case, you'll find someone selling a product or a niche that looks interesting to you. What you're going to do, so obviously I would recommend starting out, and this goes for anything, by the way, it's easier to sell something that you have familiarity with. Now, just because you don't know about something doesn't mean you can't sell that. You can learn after. And in fact, if you just limit yourself to stuff you know about, you probably ain't going to find near the niche opportunity that you want. So find a niche that looks interesting, and then go on the forums in that space, and then just find what people are talking about, what they want, what the problems are with the products that they bought, and then just start taking notes. When you find a performance brake kit for a car that looks like it's selling, and then you go on the forums and people are talking about how they like some certain feature or aspect of the product because it prevents such and such and such and such, or it breaks, maybe you can beef up the materials on the product and then offer a 10-year warranty on it, and then that's the one thing that's going to get it to sell in your niche. But the forum, the dedicated forums for a certain niche are very valuable, as is review sites that have comments on it to tell you exactly what people want from you in your market, and that's what a true entrepreneur does. They actually solve a market need. So with that, you're going to find out what people are using that's popular already. That should be number one. It's already, even though there's a problem with what they're selling, They want it really, really bad. There's still a problem that they'd love to have fixed. You'll buy that product, then you through sending it to the, China or whatever, you'll figure out how to fix that one problem or add that one feature to it that they wish they had. And then slap your brand on that, and then you sell it in the market, and then on your ads and everything else, you focus on that one thing. Offering the 30-year warranty. Now that's on the ad. Everybody inherently that now wants that. Click on your ad. They come to your site at a much higher rate. That means your ads are going to be much cheaper to run per click. You're going to have a higher conversion rate overall. That's going to give you your edge on the PPC, and that's going to get it to work within the first few months. So again, it could be an improvement on a weakness, like what we did here. It could be an additional feature that you add on to it that you wish that people say that they wish they seen this product had but doesn't have. So you'll buy the product, you'll de-engineer how to fix that specific weakness or opportunity that could be made with it or have with it, add the missing features, and then sell the product. So that is another. If you combine this whole improve on the weakness to, finding a niche idea where there's not a lot of competition, there's not somebody obviously that's doing it completely right with a crappy looking website and advertising that you can tell it's not set up that well, it's not showing up for the type of keywords that should always show up for. And then you on top of that figure out what consumers also, other than the face of the website and stuff that you can improve on, that the product or service could have with it, and then add a catchy brand name to it. Go ahead and develop catchy product packaging for it. You've got yourself something that can make you quite a bit of money and can go to market with that. Sometimes, by the way, and one other thing I wanted to mention here was if you could, whatever manufacturer you work with, whether they might actually put your logo on it for you if you work with a Chinese manufacturer. If you're working with a USA manufacturer, they may not do it. But one thing that I've also seen people do that gives you an edge is you could take the box and make a really, really cool box with color graphics on it and put that box next to the product and then take your product photo for the product page with the product packaging next to it. And it could be the same exact product as some 10 other companies, but because you got a custom box, your product is the one that gets the the 50% increase in conversion rates, which makes your business viable. Just with that one, just with changing the packaging, not even the product casing or anything like that. So of course you add your own brand to it, but the brand plus the packaging actually has a lot of potential all in itself, just as a side note. So that's an opportunity. But last thing to mention on this video about drop shipping. So if you are selling products, a lot of people want to know if drop shipping works. I've done drop shipping as well. I recommend don't doing drop shipping. First of all, if any company lets you drop ship their products and they're not going to charge you a fee up front, there's probably huge, massive problems and reasons why they're doing that. If they offer a good product that's in demand, they don't need drop shippers. And if they do, they'd want to whittle it down to the most serious people because they don't want to deal with 100 people, especially that could misrepresent their products. So like for instance, in the horticulture space, indoor gardening, so on and so forth, supplies, there was a company called Hydrofarm that, and I worked for a company that sold this at one point in time. It was another experience in doing business and working with PPC ads and stuff. They they hired me to help with about 2-3 months to come in and help them with their business to optimize it. They were working with drop shippers, and then they had drop shippers that did not charge any upfront fee, and they were constantly out of stock. They were constantly late on shipments. And then this company, Hydrofarm, charged $5,000 just to be able to have the privilege to sell their products for them. But guess what? They always shipped on time. They were never out of stock. And anybody who tells you that drop ships, you can go online, go to Reddit, go somewhere, talk to someone who actually that drop ships. The biggest problem is stuff running out of stock. And if you spend $1,000 a day on PPC ads once things are scaled up, and you suddenly go out of stock and you've sold 15 grand with the product you can't ship, you've lost a whole crap load of money. And you got to think about that before you start. So yes, you don't have to buy the product that's easy in, at the very, very least, you want to get into having your own product in stock as quickly as possible, so you have control over the consumer experience the consumer gets and has. So don't do drop shipping, and if you do, be skeptical about how, something that seems like too good of a deal. But anyway, hopefully that gets you started on picking a niche for running PPC ads to make money with PPC ads. If you like the video, I have quite a bit of other videos on this channel about actual money-making PPC strategies. If you want to check those out, I also have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog that has step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that guarantee results that I use for our clients' accounts here. You can check those out, how I do them, in case you want some information on how to set up your own campaigns. But other than that, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions about picking a niche that can help you out potentially. And I get back to every person that leaves me a question or comment on this channel, the latest one. So hope you enjoyed.